Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today we're talking about how do you produce peace and contentment in your life in what might feel like chaotic and sometimes even scary times that produce anxiety. And so we just want to share today some of the practical tips and the tricks that we use in our life to actually do this. I'll call it masks that we put on. For doctors, this is prolific. I mean, literally your name becomes your identity, the thing that you do. If you're a human doing, that's awesome, but you're not, you're a human being. And so I think understanding what is my identity underneath all of these masks, because the masks are going to get ripped away. 5 areas that we focus on: spiritual, family, business, financial, and fitness. We call it living the 5 10s. So on a scale from 1 to 10 in each of those areas, where do you score yourself? I'm excited about this episode because I always like it when people can walk away with like something real. It's like, let me just put this into practice. And I know when I'm sharing what I'll do, I have found this, and I've coached this and taught this to a lot of people, has an almost immediate, almost visceral reaction when people do this. So I'm excited to dive into our content today.
Yeah, I think this is important because there is that issue of always feeling like you're on this hamster wheel and you fall into this trap of routine, and sometimes you want to get out of that routine, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's colleagues, or all of it, right? And not feeling like there is that moment of peace. And I think I think we should just talk about that, what that looks like. So I don't mind going first, unless Erin, do you want to go first? So ladies first, or we're going to break that mold and it's the 2020s, and Bob, you go first.
Yeah, it was your idea for this topic, and I love this topic, and I think you should lead the way, Bob.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll go ahead and go first then. I was voluntold. So, but I've been married for 25 years and I've been very well trained. So I have to say this has been something that's evolved in me. If we were to ask this question 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I really believe the answer would be different each one. There would be an underlying theme, but I think the answer would be different because I'm different. Right. And I think that's one of the first things, is embracing my individuality, embracing who I am and knowing who I am and being confident, unapologetic of who I am. And so that's the first thing. Second thing is my getaway. What do I like to do? Well, I love this, right? I love what we do. This is not a job. It is a business, but it is as you probably as the listener can tell, that we really enjoy what we do. And it should be like this, because we're like this when we're not on screen or recording. This is just who we are. And so I think that's another aspect of being confident in who you are, is that there's nothing to change. There's no front to be. So I love to read. I love to read about crazy stuff like what we talk about, and how to take this information into what we do, and how I can help improve somebody else's life because of this information that I've been given the graces to understand and enjoy. My faith. I love Jesus. I love learning about my Catholic faith. I love learning about the people that came before me, at saints, and lived these very difficult lives, and how they kept Jesus in the forefront, and or maybe even just didn't even recognize you, just kept loving God in the way they could in the time that they were able to, in the environment they did. That always brings me peace. And honestly, just being around family. Being around people I enjoy being around. I have zero tolerance for people that I don't want to be around. People who are leeches. And then I mean that by where they're always complaining about something. They come to you, you give some sometimes unsolicited advice, then solicited advice, and it becomes the same thing. I don't have time for that. I don't. I think that's for me, and that may be a bad thing, but rejecting that out of my life brings me peace. It allows me to be present in the moment, in the areas that I can be who I am. There's other people that love that type of personality and thrive in that world. I know I don't. That's okay. I'm not, again, I'm unapologetic for that. Go find somebody who will love you and carry you and walk along that path with you. And doesn't mean I don't love that person, just means I don't know how to deal with that. That's just who I am. And so, and the last thing I would say, which is not really the last thing, but is I love those moments where I get to go to adoration, those moments where I get to go pray in silence, those moments where, you know, I'll wake up at 3:30 in the morning, my mind's going crazy and I'm thinking about all these things, and just being able to sit in the peace and quiet with the family sleeping, the world sleeping, and just sitting and praying and reading. And just having that time and being okay with that time, not getting up and thinking I have to go do this, I have to go do this, I have to go do this. Again, that gives some people that brings them peace. It does not me, which again goes back to my first comment: is know who you are, know what you enjoy, and don't be apologetic for that. So those are a few things that bring me peace and calmness and allows me to be whatever I am. So good or bad, I don't know, but again, I don't care. It's me.
I love it. I love all that, Bob. Joe, I want to go next because I want to piggyback off a few things that Bob said. First of all, I just love the theme of being unapologetically who you are. You know, I've had quite a few jobs now in my 20 years, and I have been telling people that I have never worked with a group of people who I feel are such genuinely good and real people. And that is something special in this world. So the more you can just be that kind of person, the more you will attract those kind of people into your life. And I had a friend say that to me just this week. She's like, I just love how real you are, how you're just the same, no matter who we're around, no matter what we're doing, like what you see is what you get. And I think that's a really good quality to have. And I think the older we get, the more confident we become in that. But I think people who know us or meet us and get to know us, like that's something that you can just rest assured that we're who we say we are. And we truly just want to be those genuinely good and peaceful people. And the other thing about waking up early and having that time, for me, that's one of the hugest things that brings me peace. And again, like you said, there are different seasons of life and who you are at each season. 10, 12 years ago, when I had little babies who were waking me up at 5 a.m., I wasn't going to get up at 4 after being up half the night to have that quiet time. But now that my kids are a little older, that has brought me such peace in my life, where I think so many people wake up when they need to start getting ready and they need to, you know, tackle email right away or whatever it is. And you're reactive immediately. But your morning routine is so important, even if it's just 15 minutes, to get up before you need to get up and start the day on a proactive way, you know, with a little bit of silence. For me, it's reading the Bible, it's praying, it's journaling. Now that it's getting lighter out in the morning, going for a walk. Like this morning, I went for a walk, no headphones, no podcast, nothing. I just used it as some quiet meditative time to pray, to brainstorm for work, to just, you know, I think that time is so, it just sets your day out on such a good foot. Mm-hmm. Exercise for me brings me a lot of peace. Being outdoors brings me a lot of peace. I was born and raised a Wisconsin girl, so I had to be inside a lot of the year. And now I live in Arizona and I get to be outside every day of my life. And that has been such a quality of life improvement for me. And the last thing I'll say is, I think just introducing these new habits into your life. I've had people ask me like, well, how do I get started? Or that just seems so overwhelming to me. Because I've spent years like stacking these up along the way. But if you're not used to getting up early or journaling or whatever those practices are, even exercising, like don't get overwhelmed. Don't think you have to start this whole big hour-long morning routine. It's like 5 minutes, just add 5 minutes. And then once you get good at that, add another thing. For me, I now have a nighttime routine too. I've told you guys about this. I read this book called The Gap in the Gain by Benjamin Hardy. And it's about measuring yourself backward and all you've accomplished instead of always looking forward to what you're working toward. Because as soon as you get there, the goalpost moves and you're always feeling like, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm not where I want to be. we all can relate to that. So I think some peace comes with that in looking back at how far you've come and just celebrating yourself and having that more positive self-talk. But like before I go to bed at night, I sit down at my desk and I write 3 wins from the day. Like, here's 3 things that I accomplished today that happened today that make me feel so good, so that I'm going into the sleep state then in a positive frame instead of a worried or frustrated frame. So those are just a few things that bring me peace.
Love it. Thank you.
That's awesome. And those are so, I always like and appreciate practical tools. And I know like most doctors are pretty like achievement oriented people. And so that can be hard just to say, oh, just start with this. It's like, no, the whole thing, like give me the whole thing or nothing. And it really, I mean, it really needs to be emphasized. Like you've got to start from somewhere. One of my mentors was working with a real estate agent, and he was just struggling to survive. He said, I can make you a millionaire in the next 5 years if you'll commit to do one thing. And he was like, I'm in. And his one thing was floss your teeth. He's like, floss my teeth. It was this one habit that if you can do that thing every day, that becomes the anchoring habit to a routine that you can stack things on top of. And Erin, that's what you're talking about. It is over time, you can accomplish this habit stacking that really guides you towards the success that you want. So I think, you know, for me, there's a few things that are, I think, actually like paramount, like absolutely have to be the case. Number one is identity. And so for me, I think for a long time, my identity was as a business owner, as a leader. When I was in high school, I was a phenomenal athlete. I was athlete of the year. So it's like all these, like, I'll call it masks that we put on. For doctors, this is prolific. I mean, you're literally, your name becomes your identity, the thing that you do. If you're a human doing, that's awesome, but you're not, you're a human being. And so I think understanding what is my identity underneath all of these masks, because the masks are going to get ripped away. And, you know, whatever that might look like for you, and you've probably already experienced that. But for me, my identity is a child of God. And that's not something that can be ripped away. And with anyone who I work with, they very quickly learn that's what my identity is. And everything that I do should be a reflection of that. And so if it doesn't match up with that, I don't do it. And so I think for you, if you want to enter this place of peace, like you've got to come to terms with what your identity is, who you are. Who are you as a human being, not as a human doing? So I think that's a really, really important thing for people to understand, is know who you are. Now, for me, the way that shows up is in my morning routine. I literally have an appointment on my calendar with myself. And inside of that appointment is a document that I've created that reminds me of who I am and who I want to be. So there are some aspirational elements to that. And there are some confirmation elements of that. And we at Terra Firma and within our coaching process, we have part of one of our conversations is called the values conversation. And it really is uncovering what's important to you at a very deep level. And I often, Erin, when we meet, almost every single time, what do I ask you?
Remind me why we're meeting today.
Remind me why we're meeting today. It's not because I'm looking for the agenda or I don't know why our appointment happens. What I'm asking Erin to do and what I'm cueing her to do is to remind both of us of her deepest values and why we're having this conversation. And so I do that a lot. And I kind of joke with the doctors that we work with. It's like, I know the agenda for our meeting, but I want you to remind me why we're meeting. Remind me who you are. And so I think we just need to have that, because the world is telling you a million things. And my choice every day is, I am not going to enter the chaos of the world. Those who I encounter are going to enter into the peace that I have. And I think, you know, I'm willing to match your chaos for a moment, while you then, so that you can enter the peace that I have. And so I think that's a lot of when I get clients or members who are like gushing about the work that we're doing together, it usually is from that place, not from the place of, oh, our numbers improved and my staff is doing better. It's more who they are in the process. And so I think, you know, we've got to live those things out first. So I'd encourage you, create a document that reminds you who you are, and visit it every single day, because the day is going to bring chaos. You got to bring peace to it. And then I'd also, the other thing that I like doing, and I do this both for myself and for our members, is across the 5 areas that we focus on: spiritual, family, business, financial, and fitness. We call it living the 5 10s. So on a scale from 1 to 10 in each of those areas, where do you score yourself? So start a Google spreadsheet or even on a piece of paper, and every week take inventory on a scale from 1 to 10. Where am I at spiritually? Whatever that means to you. I know what that means for me, but whatever that means for you. What's that voice that, you're interacting with that's, helps you understand right from wrong and whatever it might be? Family. If you don't have DNA family, it could be close relationships. So whatever that looks like for you, where are you at in those? Scale from 1 to 10. Spiritual, family, business. How's your business operating? Financial, your financial life, is everything in order? And then fitness, what are you doing? The goal is not that you're ever going to be perfect, but to strive towards something that's better than where you are now. It's just that constant and never-ending improvement. So I think those are some of the things that I use, like practical tips in my world. Just a mindset thing: as I enter the day, I'm not going to enter your chaos. You're going to enter my peace. And I'm going to be intentionally moving forward in each of these elements. So I don't know. I hope somebody can walk away with something there.
I can always walk away with something from you, Joe. And I was going to say, like I did, mic drop. I want to put that on a billboard. Like, I'm not going to enter your chaos. You're going to enter my peace. That is a beautiful way to approach each day. Seriously.
Yes.
And much more eloquent than my rant.
Oh, no.
Well, I would be really curious, for the doctors who are listening to this, or to anyone who's listening to this podcast. I think we can learn a lot from one another. So there might be a tool or a tip or a hack or a trick that someone has taught you that helps you approach your day. We would love to hear from you. We want to constantly improve. So maybe drop in the comments, what is it that you're doing that's helpful for you? Maybe it's a mindset preparation. Oh, here's one more. This is one final one. I'll leave maybe one final one. Maybe there's more. I call it the pre-shot routine. So like, think about like basketball. You always see someone at the free throw line. They like dribble the ball 2 times and then they spin it in their hands, dribble it once more, and then wiggle. I don't know, whatever they do, but they've got their pre-shot routine. Golf, same thing. You see them approach. They do a couple practice swings. They wiggle the club over the ball. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not a golfer, but it's like we've got these pre-shot routines in physical sports. I like to use that analogy. So maybe it's you right before you're going in to see a patient, right? You're studying their chart. You're probably just standing outside their door, and you're about to engage with another human being who's there to see you, for you to help them in some way. So do you want to carry all the baggage of the meeting you just got out of? Perhaps somebody's going through severe trauma or whatever they might have experienced. You can carry that right into the next meeting, or you can make the conscious decision to say, I'm starting again. Here's a pre-shot routine for what I'm going to do. So for me, mine is really, really simple. I recognize the people that I work with are typically very successful. Their hourly rates are astronomically high. Their time is valuable. They are valuable. What they're doing with the world is having a huge impact. And so I don't want to bring any negativity of what I might be experiencing. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to start over. So for me, literally before I launch my Zoom meeting, which is where many of my meetings are, I will take a moment and I will revisit like why I believe I exist on planet Earth. And I'll take a moment, I'll think that, I'll take a deep breath in, and I'll smile on the exhale, knowing that I'm about to enter someone's world with peace. And that reset for me has served me for literally decades now. One of my mentors taught this to me. So I think that's a really practical tip, Doc, that you can take into your practice. Leave the baggage of the previous day, whatever is, or the day so far, at that door, reset yourself and go enter this person's world from that place of peace. So anyway, hopefully that's another little practical tip. So we want to hear yours. What are your practical tips? Drop them in the comments. Again, our goal is just to provide as much value as we can with this podcast. We know that doctors are an underserved community. You pour so much of what you do into your patients, into your practice, and what you're doing. And so we hope that this can be a little light in your world, bringing some value to you as often as you come back and listen to it. If you feel like you're at a place in your practice where you're successful, but it feels like the more I succeed, the less I feel like I have available to me. I feel like the IRS is just gobbling everything up. If that's you, Doc, we've got resources for you. We always begin with what we call the cash flow flow recovery process. We have a formula that we help you walk through to help you determine how much you might be overpaying in federal income tax. And we've got some strategies to help mitigate against that. So I'd invite you to check out our website. You should reach Erin in any capacity that you can, either via email or track her down on socials, and just say, hey, I want a cash flow recovery, and she'll walk you through that process. But we wish you the best. Know that there is a team here to support you, and we can't wait to see you succeed.